Hello, and welcome back to the TapD demo series. I'm Hannah with Lightning Labs, and this is a series of short demo videos walking through using the Taproot Assets daemon TapD from install to mint to send to burn. And at this point in the series, we've minted some assets, and now we're going to transfer them. In this particular video, we are going to show how to transfer assets via the CLI, the command line interface. So let's do that. And what we're going to do here is I have two separate nodes set up in two different tabs. So this one with the usual Ubuntu sort of purplish color in the background is my TapD demo node. And I think we'll just call this one the Alice node, just for simplicity here, so we can keep a track of what's going on. This one will be Alice. And then this one over here is an older testnet node of mine where I'm also running TapD. And we'll call this one our Bob node. So we have Alice and we have Bob. And I've been using this Alice node here, my demo node, to mint some assets. So right now, Alice has some assets. We'll take a look at those. And what we'll do here is Alice will send some assets over to Bob. So let's just take a quick look, and we can see the CLI demo bucks and the API demo bucks that we minted in the last couple of videos. So we have 200 of the CLI demo bucks. I did have 200 of the API demo bucks, but I sent some of those over to Leo with Lightning Labs. So he's got, Leo's now the proud owner of 10 API demo bucks. And maybe today, Bob will also be the proud owner of 10 API demo bucks. So that's where we're starting. And we're going to make some transfers via the CLI. All right, a couple more things to note here is in a previous video, we've already talked about universes and how to join or add a universe to a universe federation. I've added some config to both of these nodes such that they're acting as public universes and they're both talking to each other. So they should be aware of each other's asset data, which is important because in order for Bob to request assets be sent over to him, he has to have data about those assets so he can put together all the necessary information for Alice to be able to transfer those assets over to him and to create the proofs, etc. We won't dive into the data structure and how that all works. You can read about that in the docs or some of our overview videos, but they need to be, these two nodes need to be talking to each other in order for them to have the necessary information to complete this transfer. So now we've got that out of the way. Let us start by looking at the assets that Bob will want to receive. Okay, so Bob, because his universe is talking to Alice's universe, he'll have this information, but let's send him 10 of this particular batch of API demo bucks. So the information we're going to start with here is this asset ID. Now, Bob's node is going to be aware of this asset because their universes are talking to each other, right? So this is the asset that Bob wants. We'll come back over to Bob's node, and he needs to create what we're calling an address, right? Create a whole bunch of information that gives Alice what she needs to be able to transfer those assets to him. So we'll use a command for that. And it looks a bit like this. So this is kind of the structure of the command, and then we need to add some information to it. All right, so we have tap CLI, address, new, and asset ID. All right, so we've just copied that asset ID. We'll add that asset ID, which looks like that. And then we need to add an amount, which will be 10. We'll send Bob. Bob will request 10 of our API demo bucks. Okay, so Bob runs this command on the CLI, and hopefully what we get in return is an address. Awesome. So here is our encoded TapD address. It's this big, long string. So we're going to copy this information. And this then is what Alice needs. Somehow this address needs to get from Bob to Alice, and won't dive too much into that. But imagine that'd be something that happens sort of at the application level, right? Where for whatever you're building, that transfer of that address should happen at that level. And let's clear this information out. And then we'll look at what this command looks like. on Alice's side. So now we're back at the Alice node, and she's going to send those 10 API demo bucks over to Bob. So she has tap CLI, assets, send, and then we have to give it the address, and just abbreviated like that, and then we can paste it in. So this is just telling the CLI that we're going to send some assets and encoded, and in this blob of information there is all the various data that Alice's node needs to construct that on-chain transaction, which will transfer those funds from her to Bob. So let's run it. Awesome. We get all kinds of information telling us about this particular transfer. So here we have these proofs, right? This will get sent over to Bob, so his node is aware of this transfer. And we have here, I think this is the on-chain transaction ID. So we can go look at a block explorer and check what's happening there. All different kinds of information about this transfer. So I'm going to show you a couple of commands that are helpful here. If you're trying to check on a transfer or get data about it, this command is helpful. There we go. All right, so here we go. This is a helpful command, tap CLI assets transfer. And again, we see that information that we saw when we first put through that transfer command. But again, all kinds of information. So if you're trying to figure out what's the state of a particular transfer, this command is quite helpful for you. So that transfer command is really handy to get all kinds of data about any transfers that have happened on your node. But we can also go and look at the balance on the node as well. Keep in mind that it might take a second for this data to be updated, because what's going to happen is this is an on-chain transaction, right? And so the node's going to want to make sure that that transaction has a confirmation. And then once it has some confirmations on-chain, then it's going to send that proof data back and forth. So all the nodes are satisfied that indeed that transaction is in the Bitcoin blockchain, is confirmed, and we have some proof data. So you might want to wait a couple of blocks before you see all the balances updated. All right, so that on-chain transaction now has a confirmation. So now we'll go and check if Alice's node is aware, like if that balance has been updated on her node, so she knows that that asset is no longer with her, right? And yep, there we go. We can see that we now only have 90 of this particular round of API demo bucks. Awesome. So now we can go over to Bob's node and see if his node is now aware that he has received that asset. Excellent. Bob now has 10 of Alice's API demo bucks. That is what we would expect. Okay, cool. So to recap, in previous videos, we minted some assets, some of which we called API demo bucks. And in this video, we have two nodes up and running. We have an Alice node and a Bob node, and our Alice node transferred 10 API demo bucks to our Bob node using the CLI. As always, for more information, you can check out the docs at docs.lightning.engineering, and I'll see you in the next one.